Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Village of Gurnee Planning and Zoning Board for this Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. Could we have a roll call, please?
Campbell.
Present.
Morgan.
Present.
Nordenhoff.
Here.
Hack.
Here.
Hazak.
Here.
Ware.
Here.
And Huber.
Present, we're all here. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excuse me. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our meeting that was held back on February 1st. Does anybody have any questions or comments? If not, a motion to approve would be in order.
Motion to.
Motion by Mr. Paff, second by Mr. Nordenhoff. I think I heard it that way. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing from request by Racine Bible Church, proposed to be located at 68 Ambrosio Drive.
And what I'll do is I'll introduce the next shared parking one as well in one introduction, but you can focus on the special use and then the shared parking modification request.
And the first part is public hearing, but the parking is not, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Racine Bible Church is seeking a special use permit to allow the establishment of a place of worship in Suite 103 of 68 Ambrosio Drive. The site is zoned C2 and I2 as a PUD. A special use permit is required for a church facility to occupy 1,750 square feet of the 7,000 square foot building. There are 3 other medical office related tenants in the building. Although the applicant indicates that the site has 36 parking spaces for use by all occupants of the building, the front 12 parking spaces are non-conforming in terms of the parking stall and drive aisle depth. These spaces will need to be restriped to 45-degree angle stalls in order to comply with code. This restriping will reduce the number of parking spaces in this area to 7, so that the site will have 31 legal parking stalls. And the property owner has committed to making this striping change. Per the applicant, the size of the congregation is 20 with services after 5 p.m. on Friday and all day Sunday. The applicant is projecting the congregation to grow to approximately 70 members while at this location, and this amount falls within the fire department's maximum occupancy estimate and will meet the parking requirement of 1 space per 4 seats, but requires the parking modification / shared parking request since the building has multiple tenants utilizing this parking. Should it be needed, there is also on-street parking on both sides of Ambrosio Drive. As with all special use permits, the Planning and Zoning Board will make a recommendation that will be forwarded to the Village Board for their determination, and the Planning and Zoning Board has decision-making authority on the shared parking modification request. And the petitioner is in attendance to present their plans and answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I would ask that anyone who intends to make a presentation, ask questions, or somehow participate, if they would please stand and be sworn in by the village attorney.
And if you're in doubt, it's probably best to just get sworn in now. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yes. You may be seated.
Okay, at this time, I'll turn the floor over to the petitioner, and this applies to everyone. As you approach the microphone for the first time, if you could please just introduce yourself and state your address for the record. Thank you.
My name is John Anderson. My name is Jose Torres. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Chairman and fellow board members for allowing us to come and present to the board in support of the special use permit. Just a little background, I've been a part of Racine Bible Church for 50 years, currently the executive and missions Jose, he can give some background on that.
Yeah, so this bed. There we go. Thank you. Esperanza Viva is Spanish for Living Hope, and we have started a ministry, a Spanish ministry, up in Racine, Wisconsin, in 2016. Just last year, in July, we had our elder board actually approved that we would be moved as a church plant to the Gurnee area. And we came with a core group of 25, and we have, as of this year, in January, I was able to become part-time staff of Racine Bible Church to continue on the work of this ministry, and currently developing leadership team for our congregation, and working with the Midwest Church Extension. So today we're still working with all the legal side of the church as we continue under the umbrella of Racine Bible Church. And it is our plan to launch our ministry in April of this year. So this is the building that, or floor plan of the building that we're trying to lease. We believe that it will be sufficient for about 70 people. We think at some point we will have to remove 2 walls to make this happen. There is a office in there, a study room, and a kitchen, mainly for coffee and light meals. And there's our agreement with the landlord is so far is a 2-year lease, which we're hoping to see if we grow the place in 2 years that we can stay there or look for something else. Next. So we have done some work on figuring out what is going to work with us as far as our time of gathering. So on the left, you have all the different times of the current tenants that are there. And on the right, you have the times that we would be gathering. And that will be on Fridays after 5. 5 is just the time to get ready. 7 o'clock at night is really the time when everybody comes in. And Sundays, all day on Sunday. And then occasionally during the week, as I'm still part-time, it'll be administration and study in the office. So on site, currently there are 36 spaces. We currently need about 10 to 12. So that's a photo of the site. And our projections are in attendance on Sundays we're looking at growing in this place to about 65 to 70 people, which will require somewhere around 28 to 30 parking spaces. We figure on Fridays we have a lower attendance, so the attendance on Fridays will be about 50 to 55 people, and then spaces will be 20 to 22. And then I turn it back to John.
Maybe this is just a point to take any questions before we just get into, well, I'll just comment on this. We just add this because I've looked at all the zoning ordinances, and we don't think security with the building is going to be an issue. The tenant behind us currently has a system that alarms inside, not externally. We've looked at the signage on the building. We would comply with what's there and just duplicate for the suite that we would have. And so in those areas, those are the major ones that we thought we would have to consider. So we're requesting approval for the special use permit for Suite 103 to support our church startup, a place of worship, as we feel that there's a large Hispanic population within Gurnee and Waukegan, and we want to, I guess, be a part of that community as we would start up this Spanish church. So that's just an overview of what we have, and answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. So just to be clear, the only item that we have to consider aside from the parking in the public hearing aspect is special use permit. They're not asking for any other variations to any of the other underlying requirements of the various codes. So with that in mind, who'd like to start?
I have a couple of comments.
Okay, go ahead.
Questions. Currently, it looks like you have enough space for your projected attendance.
Yes.
That's great. You can use all around the building. That's great. And I appreciate you giving us the projections for 2 years. That was one of my questions initially. So it looks like you will have enough for 2 years. In your development plan, do you have projections for 5 years?
Not at this point, unless you thought, it's really hard to tell. No, we don't have projection out 5 years. I would generally say, just having worked with some church plants in other international countries, it usually takes about 5 to 10 years to maybe get up to around 50 to 75 people. That's in an international environment. So I would expect, I mean, we would truly, it'd be great if we could get up to 100 in
Which
5
would be a
years.
problem, though, I think, for the parking.
Yeah, then we would have a problem. We'd have to look for, but we feel within the 2 years, somewhere in that 55 or 65 to 70 is a range that's very aggressive, but yet very achievable. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Wasn't the space going to bump up against an occupancy cap based on the fire department and that sort of thing? That becomes an issue before parking ever becomes an issue?
Correct,
That's my understanding.
correct.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess my perspective on it was always, let's take a look at the extreme. What's the worst case scenario,
Sure.
let's say? So, we don't even call it a worst case scenario. Best case scenario, obviously, is you grow rapidly,
Right.
successful, and you outgrow your space, and congratulations, and
Yeah.
you'll probably be looking for a bigger space at that point in time. Do you foresee a condition whereby, you have special events that would draw in, more than just your membership or extended, membership plus extended families, churches often, have social events, potluck dinners, or, whatever that would be, kind of one-off and unusual or anything like that. But do you see yourself wanting to use that facility for those types of things as well?
Yeah, the short answer is no, and the main reason is because we have the Racine Bible Church is about 35 minutes, right? So if we were going to hold an event that will gather more people, we will go to and schedule it with them.
Okay, great. Yeah, because, I really only looked at other areas where there could be conflict, again, with the other tenants potentially, and there was only one that even had overlapped hours with your Friday for, a 2-hour window, that 5 to 7 window or so forth. And even so, if your projections hold true, you're not even going to be pushing the limits of the capacity. So it just seems to me like there is plenty of room here to fit this all in, including the growth. So, I think that to me was really the underlying and largest issue to take in as to whether this was going to be appropriate, for this space. So it looks like we're okay from that perspective.
Yeah, and I think just to say, Esperanza Viva has been meeting at Racine Bible Church, and half the people or more than half were from Gurnee anyway. So for them to travel 30 minutes up for a special event would not be unusual because they've been up there for 4 to 5 years. But it's a good question, thank you.
Josh?
My only question was, I'm looking at the package that was provided.
Yes.
And I just want to verify, because I didn't see it in the slides, is this the layout of the seating and the stage?
Well, generally, that's what we thought originally. That might be long-term. That is longer term. That is, if we grow to,
full capacity, 55, 60. This diagram is assuming we would have to knock down a couple of internal walls. It would be on the left side portion of that diagram in order to get that full layout. But, so yeah, that would be a full capacity.
Okay. And the reason I ask is for more of a discussion to say, you know, it says 70 seats, and that's really pushing your projection. So I agree. I think there's
Right.
plenty of room for this.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
plenty of parking.
And it's scalable.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with it, and I believe everybody's brought up most of the points. The only thing that I saw in here was that it says, and occasionally group gatherings of 50 to 75 on other days of the week. And it doesn't specify any other day of the week. If this isn't a Friday or a Sunday, it could end up overlapping the hours of some of these other operations. That would be a problem, I would think.
Yeah, it would probably be the Friday, because when we wrote that, we hadn't fully filled everything out, and it would be a Friday more. It would not be a normal weekday night. It would be more of a Friday. So.
That was my question, just addressing item 4 there in the application, where you're indicating that it was somewhat different than the presentation and what the staff presented, and that the occasional group gatherings and the number of employees and the like, I'm assuming that was pre-review? maybe?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then upon further review, you have the numbers correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that was sort of pre-review when we were initially filling this out, and then once we looked at the space more and developed, and the parking space and everything, we modified it to this, yes.
Okay, so what the presentation is what?
Yes,
I think
correct.
is actually going to
Yes.
happen. And I don't think I have as much of an issue with the number of congregants on a Sunday. If you needed to, many churches have done that where they've gone to 2 services.
Correct.
To be able to accommodate the number of people in that growth space.
Okay. Yeah, I generally don't have an issue with the request either, and one thing I'd like to amplify is staff in their notes has indicated to us that there's on-street parking available there, which provides some sort of a release, and given that it's a non-residential area, I'm not really concerned about any blowback from people complaining about people parking on the street. So, and as long as it sounds like the commitment is operating on Friday evenings and throughout the day on Sunday, I generally don't have a problem with it. So at this point in time, I'm going to open the floor to the public. Is there anyone from the public that would care to ask a question? If not, I'll close the floor to the public. Any other comments or questions? If not, a motion in the favor. Oh, go ahead.
One quick one.
Yeah.
Did we hear from the tenants or the landlord of any other questions or concerns? Just thought I'd,
No.
thank you.
Okay, and I assume the building is owned by one landlord and the other 3 are tenants? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, then, if not, if there's not anything else, a motion in the in the form of a recommendation to the village board would be in order. Go ahead.
A motion to forward a favorable recommendation on the petition of Racine Bible Church for a special use permit to allow the establishment and operation of a place of worship at 68 Ambrogio Drive, Unit 103, in substantial conformance with the submitted materials and testimony provided, and subject to the restriping of the parking stalls east of the building to 45-degree angled stalls.
Second. Any discussion? Joanne, can we have roll call, please?
Campbell.
Aye.
Morgan.
Yes?
Nortop. Paff.
Aye.
Azak.
Aye.
Ware.
Aye.
Van Zulen.
Aye, motion carries. As you know, we recommend to the village board, and the village board will make the final decision on this, and staff will let you know when that's going to happen.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Clara, what do we need in terms of discussion on the shared parking? I mean, in my mind, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's owned by one landlord, and he basically has to monitor himself in terms of you know, how the spaces get divvied up, so.
Yeah, a lot of what you have discussed was kind of related to that, so if you want to
Okay.
ask any other questions.
And you have in the packet the signature of the.
Right, okay. So what do we need in terms of a motion?
There is a template in the notes, if you want to take a look at that. It would just be a motion to approve
Okay.
in the affirmative.
Yes, go ahead.
Motion to approve the request by Racine Bible Church for reduced shared parking to allow the establishment of a place of worship at 68 Ambrosio Drive, Unit 103, in substantial conformance with the submitted plan, including the proposed hours the facility will be utilized for the church.
Second?
Second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Campbell. Aye. Morgan.
Aye.
Nordenhoff.
Aye.
Pfaff.
Aye.
Mezak.
Aye.
Ware.
Aye.
And Surratt.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you very much, and thank you for a very
Thank you,
professional
thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.
Good luck.
There's a meeting on the calendar for the 29th. Do we have anything scheduled?
We don't have any public hearing items at
So
this time.
stay tuned.
Yeah.
I'll open the floor to the public if anyone would like to comment about anything that wasn't on the agenda this evening. Close the floor to the public. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.